¿Cómo estamos, Lalo? Ok. Ahí estás, Eduardo. Ok, qué bueno, Eduardo. Nomás estamos esperando unos poquito más y ahorita empezamos. Okay, we're gonna start in a minute or two. And if anybody has any questions in the meantime, and I hope you guys are here investing in yourself. And let's see. Can you guys see the presentation? And I want to make sure. I think I did. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Let me share the screen. Okay, it's not that one. Somehow I lost the presentation. So let's see where it's at. Okay, there it is. Okay, let me open it up. Sorry, I couldn't somehow see it. And okay, here we go. And share screen. Okay, can you guys see the screen now? You guys could type in the chat box if you could see it. Okay, great. All right. So welcome back. We're gonna give it like maybe, no, I think we're gonna get going right now just because of the timing. So I want to welcome you. We have not too many people tonight, but we're gonna give it 100%. Like if we had a full audience of 100, 200, 300 people, and make sure you receive as much wisdom, knowledge on real estate. And every time we jump on these webinars, if you want a recording, we could give you a recording. My marketing director is here on the webinar, so she could reach out to you, type questions, ask questions, and just really take notes. And if you have questions after this, feel free to reach out to me. And the topic of today is you have signed a purchase and sale agreement, meaning when you ratify a contract and you're going to buy a building, a property, a land, commercial, modular, warehouse, or anything that has to do with real estate. There's a lot of process. This is not a process when you buy a house, but more like when you buy an investment. So what I would tell you right now is There's a lot involved when you get in contract, and I'm going to give you a simplified steps, a simplified process, some hurdles you're going to run into. And at that point, you're going to start understanding why it's important. Below here in the discussion, we're going to go through what's the purchase and sale agreement. We're not going to dive deep on the contract itself. We're just going to go through the basics. What's included in the sale agreement? How does the sale agreement works? After the agreement is signed, questions you have after signing it. What's a property condition assessment? If you never heard of it, this is going to be a really great topic. What is a real estate property due diligence? Should you walk every unit and check every lease, and why? What does retrading a deal mean? If you never heard that word, this will be the first time you hear it. This is going to blow away your mind. Retrading, retrading. What does it mean to retrade a deal? Do you need an attorney to review your survey report? What's a survey report? Why do you need a survey report? Make sure you have the following, and then we're going to go to Q&A, frequently asked questions, meet our team, talk, and share what's on our agenda next week. Write down right now if it's important for you. Next Friday at 4 o'clock, we're going to have our next webinar. It's not going to be on Thursday. It's going to be next Friday at 4 p.m. And I won't blow out the secret of what it is, but I suggest you wait so you could see what we're going to talk about. Some of you know me, some of you don't. And if you do, which if you do, you already know this is all I've been doing all my life: real estate, investing, buying, selling, leasing. I've bought any type of real estate up to right now, except a retail center, which I am working on that this year. In a nutshell, what's a real estate contract is an agreement between a buyer and seller. An agreement that only allows you to buy any type of real estate. You need an agreement. You cannot buy any real estate out there without an agreement. If you don't have an agreement, you don't have a deal. If you don't have the terms in agreement, you don't have a deal. If you only have a handshake and a word of mouth or a word agreement, that's not an agreement. It really defines every detail. You have no idea how important an agreement is when you're buying real estate. I'll give you an example. This is going to go and shift your mindset of what an agreement could do. Here's something I've done when I buy real estate. I tell the owner, hey, I will buy your property 100%, no defaults or anything, but I want to review every unit. I want to walk it. I want to make sure that what you're telling me is accurate. And what's going to happen? There's no way the seller can say no, because he wants to sell you the building. So therefore, your job as the buyer is to write it down, that if you find something, you're going to have to either walk away or renegotiate. That is what an agreement is. That's what a purchase sale agreement. And one day we're going to have a full day about talking about the contract, just like if you're getting your real estate license or you're just looking to write an offer, maybe you work with a broker, you still need to know what a real estate contract is about, because if you don't know it, you have no idea what you're getting into. You're getting into a legal problem. You'll get into an attorney. The attorney will get paid just to fix your problem. When you buy a property, any property, there's going to be a deposit, an earnest money deposit. We call it a good faith deposit. In commercial real estate, multifamily real estate, the typical rule is 3% deposit of the sales price. My most recent property that we acquired, which was 2.6 million, I needed to put 3%, which is roughly 70,000. When you buy a single family home, usually it's 1,000 to 15,000, even 3% of the sales price. It all depends what the seller expects. If you don't know what the amount of deposit, it's a good idea to run that question with your real estate broker so that they could ask the seller, what is your expectation, so that you could get into contract? What is the included in the real estate contract? Do I get to buy everything that's inside the garage? Do I get to buy everything that's in the laundry room in the apartment complex? Do I own the mechanical and child equipment on that multifamily? You need to specify almost every detail. Do you are you going to have an inspection? Are you going to have any financing contingencies? If you're going to have a financing contingency, you need to put it on the contract. You see, financing could be an issue, and it always is to some degree. Why? Because a lender, once they look at the property, they look at your file, they look at the borrower, they need to understand that what they knew before, and now that they're knowing more about you and knowing more about the property, they could say, hey, we said we would finance this property at this loan amount. But you know what, Jose, after looking at the property, digging deeper, you walking it, you inspecting it, we are finding out that this is more riskier, Jose. Therefore, we're going to back up a little bit on the loan. So I hope you had a financing contingency. So you need to have those type of contingencies on your contract. What kind of other contingencies can you have? You want to have a lease audit. You want to make sure that you investigate what is the leases on the multifamily property, or on the commercial building. You want to check out that tenants are paying. If they're not paying, why are they not paying? You want to do a lot of what we call due diligence. A purchase and sale agreement, how they work is you cannot buy and sell any real estate without having that in writing. One of the clearest ways how you could avoid a lawsuit or any misunderstanding is having this agreement always in detail, writing down every little contingency, every little question that you think you don't know now, but you may come across it down the path. One example, I'll tell you right now, when I'm buying any real estate, personally me, I like to really, if the property is occupied, I need to know every tenant, what are they paying? Who is living there? What is the age demographic? Where are they working? Who is the last person that they leased a unit? How long did it take to lease the unit? What's the marketing budget? Who is the typical tenant? Who is the person that's not paying? How long have they not been paid? What's the situation? How many people did not pay the last 6 months? And if they did not pay, what kind of agreement or action plan do you have? Those are questions that you need to put in a contract and say, I need this time so that I can make sure that this $30 million property that I'm going to purchase, I have that time. Financing, same situation. What about if the lender changes at the last minute? You want to have a financing contingency and state to the owner that, well, I don't think I could buy your building any longer. Therefore, I like to walk away, or give me the opportunity to find another lender because of the contingencies of the lending did not work in my favor. Closing costs, inspections, those are clauses you want to put on your agreement, because if you don't put an inspection contingency, you may have a problem when you find it that you can no longer walk away. I'll give you an example. When I bought a building 6 years ago, I bought a building in Fresno, California, 29 units. The owner said that all HVACs operated. I physically tested them out, meaning turn them on, check them out, and they look fine. Don't question me. I mean, everybody was happy. Tenants were happy. 45, 90 days after I owned it, the one HVAC went out. They said, Jose, it won't cost you that much. But after finding out and letting them, after the inspector inspected the HVAC, said, hey, you could repair it or replace. If you replace, of which I'm going to recommend you, it's $7,500. Repair, it's a few $100s, but it's going to go out. So if I knew that information before buying this building, I would have asked the seller that I cannot pay you that price because all your HVACs are out. Now we're talking about 29 units. Imagine that. That's a huge cost, that got me more in trouble. Once you sign the purchase and sell agreement is signed, you may occur a few other items: the title search, inspections, loan agreement, money transfer, and closing. That is just the basic. That's just the basic of what you go through. Now, every little heading that you see there, title search, inspections, loan agreement, money transfer, closing, everything is very important. Don't ignore it. I'll give you one example on each one of them, and then you're going to start thinking, wow, that is important. Title search. You want to do a title search and make sure that when you buy it, that it does not say, as an example, that it tells you that you, as the owner, you buying this building, and the neighbor, both of you share a road in the middle so that PG&E could pass through, and therefore you cannot use that. Imagine if you did not know that, but on the title search it shows it. So if it does, you need to investigate. Is this a deal breaker? Would this let me sell it later? Would a new buyer care about this? Those are questions that may come. I'll give you another one, a title search. What about if there's an association and you never knew? You want to find out, do I need to pay fees so that my building could be managed well? Maybe they have an association to take care of the area and you're not aware, and you're thinking, well, the seller never told me. Well, now you know. Another thing in the title search could come is, maybe in the title, the land that you buy, it could only be leased to affordable housing, affordable tenants. What about if you lease it to people and you lease it at market rents, and then you owned it and you say, wow, I didn't know this. Then you get in a lawsuit, they tell you, hey, you cannot lease that building at the market rates. Inspections. You buy it, you don't do the inspections, you don't check the condition of the roof, then you own it. It's a cost for you. You have no idea how valuable inspections are, that I pay on average on an inspection report, depending the size, location. On average, you could go from 5,000 all the way to 12,000. It just depends, what are you looking for. If you want to inspect the roof, asbestos, you want to check the condition of the HVACs, the heaters, if they have chimneys, if they're condos, you have to have the inspections. These inspections are very important. We just went through the loan agreement, and the loan agreement told us of what it entails: the deposit, the contract, the contingencies, how long can I buy it? What about if I don't meet the deadline? What's going to happen? Now, the money transfer, the buyer must have the money. One of the things about this, and this happens to a lot of investors, a lot of buyers, is that they run into a money crunch. Why does that happen? And I'm going to tell you right now why. Because when you get into a building and you're going to buy it, the lender already told you what you should be putting down. But once the lender finds out more about the property, they realize actually that they can't lend you that much money. So therefore, you need to come in with more money. I've never seen it when you put less. They always want more. So when they put more, they want you to know and say, you better be ready. They could tell you a week before closing. They could even tell you a few days before closing and say, Jose, instead of 200,000, instead of $1 million, we need 1.5, just like that. And you need to be ready with that money, because remember, you have a deposit of 3%, 2%, 4%, or whatnot, what percentage, but you have a deposit that if you don't close, you could lose that deposit. And we're talking big time on commercial and residential. Now, I'm going to tell you, I've gone through every little scenario I've told you, every little scenario: title search, inspections, loan agreement where the things go wrong, go well. The lender tells you, hey, Jose, in your past life, I noticed that you had a foreclosure in 2001, and it's 2021. And then I say, well, why do you care? It's already 20 years later. Believe me, it's important. They care. They're not going to let you they're not going to tell you that, hey, it's not, it's important. They want to tell you. They'll do a background check on any multifamily, any loan. They'll do background checks. And if you're not upfront right now, upfront, I could promise you right now that they already know. They're just waiting for you to disclose it. If you don't disclose it, I could assure you, you're not going to get that loan. They're just going to surprise you when you get to the closing. And for me, I've always been very straightforward. You share everything you've gone through, and I could assure you that you will get the loan you need, because that's the bar they look for. At closing, transfer. This is the fun part. This is where things take over. And I'm going to do a webinar of what happens after you buy it. What are the first steps? Who do you need to have in your team? Who do you need to have in your legal team, accounting? Who do you need to have on the boots on the ground to look at that building? You best believe you need to have all that team. These are questions I want you to keep in mind after you sign the purchase agreement, because this is very important. A property condition assessment. A property condition assessment, I want you to remember this. This is basically the almost, if I could say, as close as possible as a home inspection. A home inspection, when you buy a residential home, single family home, a condo, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, 2-bedroom, 1-bath home, this is what it tells you 100% any issues the building has. This property condition assessment is really targeting a multi-family property or a commercial building. You want to investigate as much as possible what could go wrong with this building. I have a building in Oakland, California, where now the period to do what you call a soft story, if you don't know what that is, it is buildings in Oakland, East Bay, Berkeley, Alameda, Cerritos, San Leandro, Castro Valley, all those areas, there are old buildings. And here is what I knew when I bought my building 5 years ago. When I did my property condition assessment, the inspector said, Jose, 5 years later, you're going to have to do what you call a soft story on your building. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not a small cost. It's $170,000 to make sure that my building sustains an earthquake. I would not know that, and I would not prepare for it if I never did a property condition assessment. Imagine if you were told by the city and says, Jose, in 2021, by June of 2021, we need a soft story completed, and you don't have any time. You have to go figure it out. You need to find a general contractor, an engineer, plans, permits, cost, tenants, and it keeps going. Roofing system, plumbing. In short, a property condition assessment is something you do not want to forget. What is a real estate property due diligence? Due diligence, this is a word I want you to take with you everywhere you do, in everything you talk, everything you buy, everything you sell, even business people, investors, properties, anything you do in your life, you want to do your due diligence. Due diligence means just do your homework, literally. If you feel you're tired tonight, but you have to tell this person tomorrow what you do your due diligence right now. If it's important for you, you will do the due diligence. If it's something that's going to invest money, do your due diligence. Double check that the property is owned by the owner. Double check that the taxes are paid. Verify that the documents in the purchase agreement are accurate. Double check. If you don't know none of this, hire an attorney. This is a topic I'm going to share with you. Hire an attorney that could do it for you. Should you walk every unit on every lease? The answer is yes. I own a building in Oklahoma City, 189 units. That took me all day to walk. Every unit, I did not walk away from none of them. There were some that said they're not here, but I had authority to open it with the key. I would not let go of that. I would check the unit mix. I would check if it's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, one, or studios or whatnot. You will be surprised. There's always an owner. If he's not managing his property and if he's not being responsible, they're not going to have the unit mix accurately. So what does that mean? And I'm going to dive into that on the next slide. But you do want to walk every unit. You want to see it. You want to smell it. You want to touch it. You want to know everything about that building, like if you were going to just marry it. So when I mentioned to you when we're starting this webinar, I mentioned to you about retrading. What does retrading mean? Retrading means is, I'm going to keep it very simple. I'm going to buy your building and I say I'm going to pay $5 million. And then as I'm going to pay for it, I find out that all the units you owned, half of them are not what you say. Let's say all units, you say they're all 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. I walk the units and all the units, in fact, are studios. Just to make this really an exaggerated example. I will come back and say, sir, we need to retrade. I need to re-offer you a new price. Seller's going to say, why? What are your reasons? Well, sir, since you're not managing your property well, you don't even know that you have more studios than the bedrooms you put on the marketing flyer. That doesn't matter to me anymore. It's not the value I was looking for. So therefore, sir, I like to do this. 2 things are going to happen. 1, the seller could agree. 2, the seller could say, I don't need to sell. The seller says, I don't need to sell. Guess what? The next buyer has to go through that process. The seller needs to evaluate his building. The seller needs to go look for another buyer, and it's his time. Versus Jose as the buyer negotiates a price that makes sense, and you make that offer and you negotiate to retrade it that would make sense. I hope that it makes an understanding. Do you need an attorney to review a survey report? If you don't know what a survey report is, it's not a survey, just like you do a survey at a clinic, a survey when you go take a sample, if I could say it that way. A survey report, it really goes and takes into account the property. And the property reviews all details of the length, the width, the design, where it's sitting at. It tells you the measurements and verifies where this property is sitting at. I'll give you an example. The most recent survey report cost us $5,000. All these reports, as an example, they're not $100, $500. On average, every report is around $5,000, $3,000, $8,000. You probably need at the minimal 5 to 8 reports on average. So you may be spending possibly 40 to 50,000 just on reports, all reports, very detailed reports. They're important because once you buy this building, the lender expects to know more about the building and more about you than you could imagine. That's the idea. So to answer your question, have an attorney review a survey report. Make sure you walk the units, confirm the unit mix, make sure that the building meets the occupancy that you're expecting, confirm that the tenants are paying for pets, confirm that tenants are living at the standards of the conditions of the lease agreement, confirm the list of a due diligence. And if you join here and you want a due diligence checklist, I will email you a list that I use when I walk a building. That's what I do. Now, we're coming to the end of the webinar because I want to make sure that I can answer any questions. And Diksha, let me know if there's questions on the Facebook account because my screen is only watching one of the other presentations. So just keep me on the loop and I could answer any questions. So one of the things I'll tell you right now, if this is your first time, let us know that type in the chat box you're here for the first time. And if you're engaged, type engaged. I want you to type and let us know, and ask us any questions you have. Why did you, what is the biggest lesson you learned? What is something that you want to know that made a big difference in my career, in the buildings? What was the biggest, if I could call it, a lesson that cost you money? And that's very important. Um, I want to remind you that if you want to converse with us, we're putting our phone number, we're putting the social media links that we have so that you guys could join us, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, our website that is pretty much ready, but I'm not yet 100%, but you could go on our website and maybe Diksha, you could put the Capital Homes Investments link. They could click on it, or you could get a copy of the slide. We could give it to you guys. It's something very important for you guys to follow us, because what we do is we usually put on social media everything that's happening. We got a big event happening on September 21st, which is called, we don't have the name on it, but it's the title, but it's going to be an event where hundreds of people are going to join. And we're going to invite most people, all our community, so that you could join September 22nd, 2021. It's an event that we're going to post it on Facebook and all our social media. I want to make sure I could answer any questions. There's no questions on Facebook, Disha. You let me know. I want to invite you to our next webinar, which is on next Friday, a week from tomorrow, and it's called What to Look For in a Market Before You Invest in Multifamily. Meaning, when you go to a market, let's say you want to invest in San Jose, Texas, Florida, New York, or Southern Cal, or a certain city, I'm going to tell you what to look for. How do I determine how to invest there? How do I determine to buy in that market? How do I make sure that that market or that city is not left behind with investments? Because I'll tell you one thing. When I started investing in 2002, between 2002, 2005, I was buying properties because they were very low cost, but I was buying them in places where there was nobody living. I mean, I'm talking about in the city. There was not a lot of people living there, and that made it very challenging. That made it difficult. And what had happened, I didn't have any people to lease them. It was just quiet. And if I did, I would not be able to find another tenant. Or if I had a building to sell, I didn't have a big pool. So I just want to tell you just a little snippet of what's coming up. So I don't want to give you too much of that webinar, but I want to share it with all of you so you could join. So if you have a question, you want to chat with me, I want to allow you to hang out here. So far, Diksha, you don't have any questions on Facebook, just message me directly. I want to make sure nobody's on there. And basically the overall on this PSA is to understand that a contract is very important, that you follow it, and that I could help, and you could always be guided by the right attorney, by the right surveyor, inspectors, property assessment reports. All those are very important for you to receive. So I want to, this is a short webinar on our Thursday night and second consecutive webinar that we're doing. We want to thank you if you joined. I enjoy this wisdom sharing with all of you. And hopefully you could join next Friday. If you did get the accredited investor form, please send it over to Diksha. Diksha will send you a reminder tomorrow. So you could send it over. We are having our first property for generational wealth in October. In October, we're preparing it. We're getting it ready. It's a property that I think you should evaluate. These are properties that I feel will be creating and helping you grow much further to where you need to go. So if there's no questions, I'm gonna hang out here so that you could learn or ask any questions you got. I know on Facebook, I'm getting a few instant messages. I think Diksha, I may have to have you jump on that late on our next webinar and help us answer those questions. I think some of the people will just message me on instant messenger, I think, and we'll respond to them. But I want to make sure all of you take some of this knowledge with you. So I want to thank all of you for joining. Let me double check here. Okay. I still have some time here on the PSA, the investment world. I just want to share one last thing of what I'm seeing for the end of the year. The next 90 days is this whole next 90 days and the next year, I feel that the market is still at a very moving at a steady pace. One thing I will tell you, that the moment that the Federal Reserve Bank, the Federal Reserve says that they're thinking, just the word thinking, if they say, we are thinking of raising the interest rates, they haven't raised them. But the moment they say, hey, we are thinking of raising the rates in, let's just say, April, I will assure you that it's going to alarm everybody and they're going to back up. They're not going to want to buy. But I want to tell you what I see, and that means buy more, because a lot of these sellers are not going to want to sell at the same price. And if they are going to sell, they're going to all sell. They're going to sell, but they're going to compete. They're going to compete. And when they compete, prices drop. Just take that if you see that, that just means you want to be in a good position, so that we call that a transition in wealth. That is when properties start dropping. When you see rates going up, that's when properties start dropping. So I left you with the teaser. I hope you join for our next webinar next Friday, 4 o'clock PST. It's a different time zone. I hope you could join us. I thank you all for coming in. Diksha, thank you. Diksha, actually, you and I will stay after the webinar just to regroup. And there's going to be a survey after you finish it. Please, actually, Diksha, can you put on the chat box the Google reviews? If you guys get a moment and put a Google review in our company, we would be very appreciated if you could do that. Diksha is going to send it to you either here in the chat box or on an email. So you could really put a review for us. That would be great. If you could just put any words. If you've invested with us, great. If you did in business, great. Please take a moment, write a few words, anything that would help. It really helps our community. It helps the investors. I know at one point when if you were an investor, you wanted to know if this is a successful company. Take a minute and review them. It really helps us to grow. Well, I can't believe it's already end of the webinar. It went quick. And I got something very great to share with you next week. We may even have a guest that I've already thought about, who will share with us knowledge in the marketplaces, and I'll be asking some questions. I'm just leaving that for you as a surprise. So if there's any questions, I think we are done. I thank you. If you relearned something, you could type it on the chat box you learned, and we could go from there. Diksha, we'll talk shortly. Thank you, everybody. Take care.